Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's iPvP My Kids IRL from the Brothers Gaming Network, and today I'm bringing you an Evil Genius 2 review. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, what is Evil Genius 2? Evil Genius 2 is the successor to the first Evil Genius, which came out in the early 2000s. It is a unique sandbox lair builder where you get to be in control of a mastermind that starts up on a remote island in the world, and your focus is to expand your lair with several traps and compartments in your lair that will each do a specific function, and those rooms could be anything that is dedicated to maybe power that you need to power up some of the other aspects of your lair, and to anything to torturing the poor souls that you need to extract information to continue your conquest on the world stage. So let's get into your first world domination attempt and who you are going to be picking out to do that. So at the start, you're going to be given a choice of 4 criminal masterminds that will each have a unique role in their own right. So let's get into Maximilian. He's going to be the one that's going to be focusing on a larger workforce, acquiring more gold, and completing your minions training into your specialists, which are a bit of a unique thing in the later on stages, and you're going to need them to defend your lair and whatnot. And they're each of these will also have a area of effect bonus that you're pretty much going to be using mainly on your research scientist to mainly get your research done at a quicker rate. That I found to be the best use of pretty much all of your AoE buffs on pretty much every single one of the masterminds as well. So Red Ivan, next up, is going to be your military specialist, focusing on your muscle minions, his large AoE damage, which can also, kind of kill half of, if you've got muscle minions surrounding, or even just regular minions as well, surrounding an agent that you're trying to kill, and you pull out your rocket launcher, you're going to also blow them up as well, so, use that with a little bit of caution. And then his AoE buff effect, which does the same thing as all the other ones, it'll help increase the amount of time their speed, the which that they're doing it, and the effect that it's going to give to muscle minions is going to be even greater. So next up we got zakiya. I know I butchered that, but it's going to be your research scientist, and she is probably also the most overpowered one because research is so important in this game as well, because you're going to get stuck doing all of these tasks and whatnot. So research is going to be the best thing that you're going to be focusing on. And I found that to be in most games, Civilization, other games like that as well. Research is kind of overpowered in all of these games. So whenever she also uses her effect on anything that is on fire and needs repairs, she instantly does it. It's so overpowered, really awesome. Especially whenever you run into some, angsty robots that, just go running around and start blowing up things in your lair, you might want a little bit of some repairing going on. Emma is your distraction specialist, and she's going to be empowering your distraction minions, which are arguably the least effective minion to be investing your time into. From what I found, they don't really do as well as I would like to have seen them. I'm sure on easy and medium difficulty, you can probably play around with it a little bit more. But on the hard difficulty, they don't really bother with being distracted. They would maybe stay at like a gambling table for a little while. But other than that, though, the best thing that she's going to be doing for you is she's going to be reducing the heat generated on the world map. And that's going to help with random agents that are going to be coming to your island, so to speak. But even still, though, I would just mainly not really focus on Emma, to be honest. Especially not for our first playthrough. I could see you having like a good time with her after you've picked up the game for a little bit and you want to try out something a little bit more difficult. And next up, picking out your island. So this isn't really too big of a deal. I wish it was a bigger deal than what it was, because you get some space choices, but either way, you're kind of going to be thrown around with too much room on each of these islands. You aren't really going to be needing, to spend all these rooms. You're going to eventually just be having these large rooms of just, massive generator rooms where that's most of the time what you're going to be spending your time on is just getting more, because I felt like the time in the mid game you spend a lot of time on, sometimes it might progress a little slowly, and that's kind of what you're going to be stuck doing, is building these larger rooms later on. So I wouldn't really worry too much about where you're going to be starting. Also, the problem that I saw was that there wasn't really an impact on where the island was located. If you wanted to start up in America and you were all the way next to Australia, you could pretty much do that. It didn't really have an effect on where. I wish you would have seen some sort of progression in the where you started from and where you needed to move out from. Also, the difficulty of this game was a bit of a downfall as well. I really only played Frostpunk before this, which was a bit of a hardcore game, hardcore survival city builder. And that was my only experience really coming into this. And I've tried my hand at RimWorld, and I thought that was too hard even for me. I just couldn't really get my grasp on that. But this game felt like a good starter game, and that's a bit what I would recommend this crowd to be, is something that if you're just now coming to a city builder or lair builder, this is actually a good game to pick up because of how forgiving it can be. And that's a good thing about that. And the tutorial is a good place to get started if this is your first city builder. Coming into this, it does give you a good grasp of the situation and how to handle all the different aspects of your lair. So onto gameplay. It feels finished, and I can't say that about a lot of games nowadays, as games come out very unfinished in alpha, in beta, early access. Evil Genius did come out as a pretty fleshed out game at the start. There were very little bugs that it came across. I think I only crashed maybe once in playing for about 15 hours. The movements of creating a room in your lair felt good. It wasn't overly complicated or tedious. The movement of your units in the lair, it felt good. People weren't just standing around. Whenever you tagged them to do something in the lair, they did your task when assigned. And the combat system was not too complicated. You're really only controlling your mastermind and his accomplices when you're tagging an enemy. They would quickly descend upon the intruder. The mastermind is really the center point of your combat, as you're going to be needing to micro him at times into different positions because you don't really want him to get into close combat. And that's going to be kind of how you're killing most of the agents, I found. You're not really going to be spending a whole lot of time just lollygagging around with your minions, because they're really, if you do let them, especially on the hard difficulty, you'll just lose a lot of workforce and you're going to be getting pretty frustrated because you're not able to recover it fast enough. And to the pacing of the game, it was a good set for what you're going to be invested in for about 20 plus hours. The early game is really nothing special. Hint, hint, don't start combat with every agent onto your island that comes, because that's pretty much how you're going to be getting most of your workforce killed. At the start is just aggroing all of the agents that come onto your island, and you will start to see most of your gold being needed in the early game. That kind of sounds a little obvious that you're going to need gold at every stage of the game, but in the early game, the management of your gold is going to be pretty important, especially within the first couple minutes that you start, because you don't want to blow it all on ridiculousness, making up rooms that are too big, because you're going to be wanting to get your criminal networks up, and that's going to be your biggest source of income. And doing missions is great, but the passive income is pretty much where it's at. And as all the TikTok and YouTube economic gurus would say, you need that passive income that's so easy to get, you know what I'm saying? As you start getting your beginning research done, the mid-game is kind of where I had the most fun. You start to unlock the funnest traps, I would definitely say. And you get to, even at some points, I would just create a maze so the agents could just walk through this huge layer of traps everywhere. It was a pretty joy to watch them get frozen and then just get blasted with lasers, because of all the traps you would have set up at that point. That was probably the most fun I had, was just sitting back and watching as the agents would just, you wouldn't even need to do anything, they would just keep getting knocked down. The rooms, there was really nothing to them as to how you pretty much did set up your lair, because most of it was just going to be extremely large rooms by the end of it. You could have your cute little rooms and trying to make around with all these neat little functions, but at the end game, you're just gonna have these massive rooms of just workforce, followed by more food tables, followed by more power, and that's pretty much it. And then rinse and repeat. You're gonna have that kind of cycle even up until the end game, which is pretty fun. It's just a continuation of pretty much what you've already been doing, and that's kind of where my problem is. I wish there were more either maps. I know it's hard to make something other than Earth, but it would have been nice to have seen some other map or something more dynamic on the world stage, because that's where I feel like a lot of the fun was getting to choose where you were going to be sending your first criminals out to, how you're going to be handling different situations that were to come up. I wish there was something more to do with the factions, so to speak. There really wasn't much to them. They all kind of did the same thing. I think the hammer was really the only unique one. They were pretty much just like muscle minions that came, and you got to fight them, which was interesting. But that was pretty much it though. There wasn't really much to it, and you do get some fun tools and world domination events to happen, but overall, you get a pretty basic experience for the $40 at retail. And on a quick side note, the season pass did offer a new villain, and other features that I wish were already implemented into the game. I'm not a big fan of these features that come out quickly after a game has already been released, as if they held it back on purpose for a price tag of $25 for just one mastermind and a little bit of some extra features. But think about that for a second. The game's $40, and that was the full game. And those 4 masterminds included. So you're telling me one mastermind and a few other things, what is worth $25 whenever the game is already $40. Alright, you guys can think about that. So on to my final thoughts about the game. Overall, it was a pretty enjoyable experience. It will help mainly with players getting invested into the genre rather than the game itself. But to the crowd of people who came from Rimworld or Hearts of Iron 4, I could see this easily being put off by its shallow gameplay and mediocre game pacing with its limited features. The game felt flushed out with the actions and minions were synchronized with the commands you gave them, but the depth of the game and the shallow world stage events by the end game felt there was more to be done there. So from us here at BGN, we're going to be giving Evil Genius 2 a 6.5. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We'd like to hear more from y'all about what y'all would like to see. And remember, stay frosty, Masterminds.